in the melt-up, which is what follows this consolidation. I think it's going to be both. I think you're going to see financials play, you're going to see industrials play, you're going to see materials play, you're going to see autos play, you're going to see home builders play, you're going to see FANG play, you're going to see semiconductors play. You're going to see small and large cap plays, as I said earlier in the interview. It's going to be a broad rally, so it's not so much either or. I think the street is getting caught up in a narrative that says, "Oh, tech's had its day; it's over, and now it's time for the value stocks." And it's not that the value stocks are not ready for a big move, because I think they are, but I don't think it means the death of the tech sector yet. Now, if we're talking about beyond the melt-up, and we're talking about the other side of the bust, the next cycle. So, if I'm calling for a secular top here, and I've made this comment many times, the top in this cycle, meaning 6,000 S&P if we get there, or what have you, NASDAQ at 20, that top will stand for decades. We will not approach that top again, in my opinion, for decades, if ever. So I'll say decades because I don't want to go into a collapse story that I think is certainly a 2030 story. But if you assume we have cycles to follow, it's going to be at least a couple decades, multiple decades before we get back to the levels we'll see this year. But that doesn't mean you won't have cyclical bull market on the other side. So if we go down 80%, you can take, let's say we're at 6,000, we go down 80%, that takes you to 1,200 on the S&P. The S&P can quadruple, and that takes you back to 4,800. You're still far below 6,000, right? So you can have a big run coming out of the bust, out of the bear market, and not come close to making new highs. But new highs will happen in the commodity sector, in the industrial sector, in the precious metals sector. Those will go on to multiple new highs, but the overall indexes will be dragged down by this cycle's leaders. So if you go out beyond this cycle, your question about tech versus value is much more relevant. Next cycle is going to be a commodity investor's dream. It will be the biggest commodity cycle in history. But the next cycle, your leaders of this cycle, meaning the FANGs, a lot of the tech stuff, will be facing distribution for years to come. Every time they lift their head, there'll be a new crowd of investors who say, "I finally got back to my cost. I'm getting out." I mean, look what happened after the NASDAQ topped out in 2001. It took over a decade to get back, right? And through that whole decade, they lagged because every time they lifted their head, somebody said, "No, I'm getting my money out." People don't like to sell the loss, but when they get their money back, they sell. So you have distribution, and that's something I've learned over many cycles of investing is this cycle's leaders are next cycle's laggards. And next cycle's leaders will be a whole new group of stocks. So I do think value, and particularly commodities producers, are going to have a wonderful time in the 2023, probably second half 2023 through 2029 or 2030.